Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're setting out on a really important mission. Actually, we want to peel back the layers on depression, a really profound human experience. Looking at the sources you've shared, we're aiming to go beyond just the surface level. To really unmask how this condition can quietly reshape someone's reality. It's often more than meets the eye.
Absolutely. And this deep dive, it's really designed to clarify what depression truly is. We need to move past these, simplistic ideas that it's just about feeling sad. Our sources, they really emphasize it's often not just a mood, but almost a profound physical paralysis sometimes, where the brain itself seems to resist basic functions, making simple things feel just impossible.
Yeah, that really jumped out at me from the material. This idea that it's so much more than like a passing bad mood. It's consistently described as this persistent, overwhelming feeling. Emptiness, hopelessness. And one source used this phrase, emotional numbness. That really, really hit me. Because that feels so different from just being sad, doesn't it?
It absolutely is profoundly different. And what's fascinating, or maybe revealing, is how this numbness, it isn't passive. No, it's described more like an active disconnect. The clinical term is often anhedonia, which is really this deep inability to feel pleasure or joy in anything. And that feeling, it seeps into every part of life, makes tiny tasks feel huge. Like you said, getting out of bed, maybe answering a text. It can feel like climbing a mountain. It's really not about lacking willpower. It's a fundamental disconnect going on.
Right. And beyond what's happening inside the person, the sources really paint a picture of how this quiet struggle, it inevitably spills over. What stands out is the impact on relationships, how careers can just stall. Physical health often suffers too. The world starts to feel, I think one source said, colorless and pointless. And even if things look good on the outside, success, supportive people, that internal weight, that despair, it just doesn't lift. It sounds like living life perpetually muted, almost.
Exactly. And what's critical to understand here is how this leads to a really profound distortion of perception. This isn't just, thinking negatively. Our research points towards specific cognitive distortions. These are patterns of thinking that literally systematically filter out anything positive, which creates this awful self-reinforcing cycle of despair. Relentless. The material also mentions how things like external pressure or chronic stress can make it all so much worse, often convincing the person they're a burden or they don't deserve help, that things will never get better. That internal narrative is just incredibly powerful and so damaging.
And along with that internal battle, there's this intense, often unspoken burden, guilt and shame. Yeah, the sources describe this deep isolation, especially when other people just don't get it. They ask, why can't you just snap out of it or just be happy? That misunderstanding, it just makes the feeling of being alone even deeper. And what's really sobering, truly, is the insight about suicidal thoughts in severe cases. It's often not about actually wanting to die, but more like a desperate need to escape a reality that feels completely unbearable. Not wanting to live like this anymore is a crucial distinction.
Which brings us to a really critical question.
Right.
What is it that makes depression so dangerous? The sources often frame it as this silent, invisible force, something that slowly erodes a person's will, their will to just keep going. It's insidious, isn't it? Because it attacks from the inside, often unseen by everyone around them. Yet internally, it's intensely present, relentlessly destructive, making the simple act of existing feel like a constant, exhausting battle.
So wrapping this up, what's the core takeaway from this deep dive for you, the listener?
I think what we've really uncovered is that depression is it's far, far more than temporary sadness. It's this pervasive, actually dangerous force that silently, persistently eats away at a person's will. It transforms simple daily tasks into these massive hurdles. It profoundly distorts how someone sees the world, themselves, everything, impacts every single part of life. And it so often comes with this intense, isolating guilt and shame.
And maybe as a final thought, just consider this for a moment. These deep internal struggles we've been talking about, they're often completely invisible on the outside. The sheer courage it takes for someone just to exist day to day, let alone confront a reality that feels so utterly colorless and pointless, that's something we probably don't recognize enough. And so it raises a really important question for all of us, doesn't it? How can truly understanding the depth of this kind of isolating experience, how can that reshape our empathy? And maybe, more importantly, the support we offer to those who are navigating this incredibly difficult and often very silent journey.